Welcome to Two Bitches in a Broom podcast. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode number 27. And we are going to jump into the conversation of how to tap into your intuition and tap into your inner guidance. Intuition, inner guidance for the how and the why. So, yeah, great question. How to tap into your intuition. I feel like there's a trust element that comes heavy with tapping into your intuition and your inner guidance. Um, what are your thoughts on tuning into intuition? Like inner guidance goes hand in hand. I also feel like higher self plays a role in this too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I I definitely think I think if you are connecting to your higher self, that will naturally put you into alignment with connecting with your
Hmm.
intuition. I
Hmm.
think that there are a lot of people, I think there's growing interest anyways in
Agreed.
exploring different methods, different practices that can help people kind of unlock those um lack of a better term, psychic potential, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And we've explored, just in our podcast, different techniques that you could probably peruse through that we've recommended along the way, but maybe never directly said this will assist you
Yeah.
in connecting, you know,
Right. Because
with
I
that
know
intuition.
we've touched on this topic and even just going through the alignment process, and you can look back in even from, the beginning episodes, it's sprinkled all through there, but
Sure.
maybe we didn't go into 1, 2, 3, and 4 steps. That's how you get to the goal of this. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So what would be your guidance and steps in starting the process?
Um, my all-time favorite. If you
Mm-hmm.
watched last week's episode, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about mindfulness, um, and to practice mindfulness, your intuition will rise when you are present in the moment. So engage in activities like meditation, deep breathing, just simply being aware of your surroundings with that quiet mind, listening to that inner voice. I think that is step one. I think that's step one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that said, if you are struggling meditating and you're like, because I hear this a lot, I'm falling asleep. My brain is wandering all over the place. You're doing it right. You're doing it right. You're not messing up. That's exactly where you're supposed to be when you start practicing this
Mm-hmm.
method, this technique. Meditation is like that for everybody across the board. Very, it's very unusual for people to not struggle. So you're still doing the right thing in that practice. And it's when you are in that quiet contemplation, you will be able to hear that inner voice much easier, much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like building off of that too, being in that space, and I hear that too. It's very, very common of, oh, I can't meditate. I try, but it just doesn't work. And I think there's an idea that you're supposed to quickly, first of all, that you're supposed to shut off the monkey mind, and that it's ever going to shut up. It's not. So, and that you are supposed to quickly fall into a trance state, a meditative state, and that is not how that works.
I know,
That's
I
not how
know,
that works.
I know.
So I like that, when you are practicing mindfulness and being in the present with starting off with meditation, especially when your mind is racing, you still have to kind of train yourself to meditate and to get to those states. That also helps expand your awareness, because when you're doing that, like you said, you're now becoming aware of those thoughts. You're becoming aware of the sounds. You're becoming aware of how you feel in your space and all that stuff, right?
Sure.
Um, I build, I do that with clients and students too, and I build off of that from there. Of I love tuning into your feeling, and seeing how that sits with you when
Mhm.
you're learning to tap into your intuition. I like to say not necessarily tap into your intuition, but trust your intuition,
Mhm.
um, and that inner guidance. And I feel like I literally just said this last night too. Your higher self, the higher self does not get the credit and spotlight it deserves.
Oh,
I
I
feel
know
like
that's true. Yeah.
everybody just bypasses that as just
Mhm.
some insignificant, um, thing, when it's truly not. I feel it's tied all sync together. Your
Yeah.
higher self drives your intuition, and that inner guidance that we're all seeking,
Right.
and I feel like, I don't know what it is, but for the most part, people just tend to not look at the higher self as a credible source.
Yeah.
uh you know
I think that people see it as this elusive um
hmm
energy that they can't really picture or quite grasp or understand. And I
yeah.
think we talked about this in like episode 3 or 4, somewhere around there, where we were talking about the higher self. And I completely agree with you when it comes to
hmm
that, you know?
yeah.
Um, yeah, I completely agree. You know,
Yeah.
you started off by saying, listen to those feelings. I'll go a step further and say, listen to your gut feelings. Pay
Yeah.
attention to
Yeah.
your physical
hmm
sensations in your body, because your gut reactions will provide you so much valuable insight into what your rational
hmm
mind is going to overlook. You know what
Oh
I mean?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. It is like when we practice getting to understand and know our yes and no's,
Hmm.
especially with my feelers, that is like going into your gut feeling, tuning in, like moving your awareness to that solar plexus, that sacral area, and just how does it feel? Did it feel like your body just took a dump?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it feel like your body just became elated? Do you
Sure.
feel, notice those things? And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it is a thing where, because higher self is also tied to self, and we are struggling with understanding and trusting ourselves, it's a natural thing for people to disconnect that. I don't know if that's really the case, but yeah, I feel like higher self is making a splash, as it should be, because it's part of existence, right? To know and know thyself, trust your own guidance, and allow your higher self and intuition to be that compass of your path. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
so yeah, I think I like that. If you are looking for like exact ways of, okay, how do I do that?
Hmm.
Absolutely. Mindfulness, like what Charli was saying, mindfulness, meditation practice. It's a work in progress. So if
Hmm.
you're new to it, don't beat yourself up because you can't live up to a perceived expectation
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you have for yourself, or that social media has impressed upon you.
Hmm.
It's not fucking real.
Yeah.
It takes work, it takes time,
Yeah.
and it's not always going to be, you're not always going to have a meditation. Like every meditation is not always going to be so profound, so deep, so like extravagant.
Absolutely.
That's not going to happen. It's not an all the time occurrence. Not saying that it won't happen, but I think that's another misconception when people get turned off, because you have a great experience, take an amazing journey, and then the next one you're just only aware of your space, you know, and they're like, oh, well, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
but
morning when I did my meditation, I just saw like a bunch of planets around me.
yeah.
And there was no spoken words, there was no knowledge that was being given or shined
Hmm.
upon. It was just very peaceful, very serene, and there's going to be meditative practices like that too. Um,
Hmm.
you know, it just depends on what is needed at the time, but you have to be open to understand that you're given the information that's needed for you at that time.
Yes.
And
Keywords
sometimes,
at that time.
yeah, sometimes we need a lot of information, and
Hmm.
sometimes we just need to have a peaceful, serene space for our mind and our soul to rest,
Hmm.
you know?
Sometimes you need to
Yeah,
just be in the space you're in.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to kind of piggyback on your first we talked about meditation and
Hmm.
then, now you had said, how your gut instincts, and now after that you had said trust your instincts. And
Hmm.
I want to like expand on that a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So trusting your instincts is so important, that initial instinct. And it's so often overlooked because our analytical mind, the left brain is like, hey, let me put my 2 cents in and I know more than you do. If
Hmm.
you're practicing trusting those initial thoughts and feelings as they come to you, do it without overanalyzing them. Okay. Your intuition is the very first response that comes from your subconscious mind.
Hmm.
And you can practice that. That's a great, great way. Like you're driving up to a parking lot and you're going to park. Okay, where do I think I'm going to find a parking spot before you can even look?
Hmm.
Is it going to be
Yep.
close? Is it going to be far away? Where do you think that's going to be at? Gauge your initial, what do you think? Close or far away? Make it
Hmm.
super easy. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So just practice it that way. You can do that with a million things. A million things. What elevator is going to open? Is it going to be the one on the right, the left? Is it going to be behind me, in front of me? You know, you're driving down the street. Am I going to make that red light or am I going to stop at it? There's so many ways that you can tap into your intuition to give you a deeper perspective of what's about to occur.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree. I do share that also with, you know, again, and we've spoken about this before too, of making it fun,
yeah,
keeping it super easy and light because we already put enough pressure on ourselves. We don't
sure.
need any extra pressure, right? And
Absolutely.
when you do that and you want to practice your intuition with like great examples that you gave of going into a parking lot, where are you going to find a spot?
Yeah.
Elevators. You can do it with just the silliest, stupidest things in your
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you're really like the purpose of that is for you just to acknowledge that first hit.
Mhm.
Acknowledge, even if you start to, because I tend to draw a lot of overthinkers. So, because I never overthink anything.
The magnetism is
They
large with this one.
I don't do that as my nose is growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the whole purpose behind that is you're acknowledging that first hit that you get. Even
Mhm.
if you overthink it afterwards, and I know we've talked about this before, and I preach this all the time. There's so much power in acknowledging those tidbits, right? And even with like working with your team and all of that, even if you're gonna, and you're gonna question it afterwards, but just acknowledge it in the first place and
Yeah.
see how that strengthens and builds and how much stronger you'll start to receive those initial hits
I
to the
agree.
point then where you can't deny it anymore because
I agree.
it's gonna come. But do it with like the silly stuff that you go through the day.
Yeah.
um and just acknowledge, because you're gonna put yourself in such a better position if you do it that way versus you get it and then you sit and think about it.
Yeah,
But you let it bypass and then you sit and think about it, just you just mess yourself up. And then you end up on the
absolutely.
hamster wheel that I know nothing about.
I also think solitude is important.
Yes, that's a good one.
We are in such a busy world. There is noise all the time. There are people everywhere. We're extremely busy. Our minds are inundated with checklists, chores, happenings that we must attend to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Solitude is so important, but because when you are spending alone, it will help you and quiet. It will help you quiet your external distractions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It really will assist you in listening to your inner voice more clearly, you know? Um, I think a lot of people, when I first start working with them, they overlook how many internal conversations they have.
Oh
There's a lot of
yeah.
people that talk to themselves
Mm-hmm.
and they have no idea that they're doing it until they start to work with me. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, did you just listen to what you said? And they're like, yeah, that was so enlightening. Do you really think that came from you? Friend, did that come from you? You know,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that you would ever say if you were talking to a friend and giving advice? That's your higher self that you're tapping into. Listen to that. And in order to hear the higher self, because the higher self is so quiet, it's like a beautiful, beautiful, gentle whisper in the wind,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be quiet enough to hear that inner dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
listen to that inner voice. And to do that clearly, you need solitude and quiet contemplation.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Your higher self really is your inner librarian.
Yeah,
It's just
it really is.
the inner librarian in the librarian's voice. And
Yeah.
when you crowd yourself with so much, and I feel like this is all too like societal programming or whatnot, but
Sure.
just to always have people around or be doing,
Yeah.
right? Like it's similar when I start working with individuals and it is, the checklists are never gonna, it's never gonna stop. When you remove one, you're just gonna add another one. It's like reaching for the finish line. Every time you get to one finish line, all you do is create another finish line and it just never ends. So
Yeah.
why not give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes of personal alone time.
Yeah.
Talk things out for your with yourself because you already do it. I
Yeah.
think, I agree with you. People don't realize how much they talk through things
Yeah.
already
Hmm.
until your awareness and acknowledgement starts to come into play.
Yeah.
You know, give yourself that time. You're already doing it. Might as well and the checklist and things are never, it's going to be there in 10 minutes. Don't worry. Your
Yeah.
your finish line life is still going to be there. You can give yourself like 10 minutes of quiet. You
Yeah.
can.
My husband actually earlier this week, he's like, hey, is everything okay? You want to talk about it? I said, nah, I'm talking to myself. I give good advice, and it was kind of tongue in cheek, being funny about it.
Uh-huh.
But I truly believe that. I believe that if you are in that space of where you're just very quiet and you are paying attention to your own self, you're naturally going to be guided in the direction that you need to go to next, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting too? I will pose this question out to those that are listening to us or watching us. How many times have you had conversations with people and you're just sharing an experience, uh, but you've already figured it out? you've already solved the problem, you've already done all the things, and you're just sharing that experience with whoever's in your circle or your husband or
Right,
wife or partner or whatever.
right.
But you're not seeking external guidance, you're just sharing because you've already talked through it yourself. I feel
Right.
like that's something else that a lot of individuals don't recognize as like what you're saying of like, when you talk that through, where do you think that who do
Yeah,
you think you're talking with? Who
yeah, yeah,
do you think you're
yeah,
talking with?
yeah,
You know, like some profound thing happens and you figure it out, like, oh, wow.
yeah.
No shit, Sherlock. You're connecting into your intuition, you're connecting into your higher self, you're seeking guidance for that issue, that problem, whatever it is that you were
Mhm.
facing. And then you're sharing just for the sake of, sharing. It's human nature to share with those we love.
Mhm.
Um, but you've already put it to bed. So I
Yeah,
think that's something that gets bypassed too, because it's just like the rat race. We're so much so on to the next, on to the next. We don't
I agree.
recognize those things.
I agree.
Um, there's your inner guidance, there's your intuition, there's your higher self right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, because I am that girl, I also believe that you must practice self-care. You do. You have to be balanced
Mm-hmm.
physically, emotionally, and mentally and spiritually in order to be a clear channel for your intuition to come through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I feel like if you are not balanced, you're still going to get hits, but it's not going to be a clear channel. Bits and
Right.
pieces will come through, but not the way it would if you are balanced. Um, and you can become balanced if you are taking care of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think, especially in this day and age, people really struggle with that. I believe the material realm is very demanding. It's tough being human. We got so much to do. The first thing when you open your eyes is you're going, okay, what's on my checklist today?
Mm-hmm.
How many emails do I have to go through? Who do I need to take to what am I
Mm-hmm.
eating for dinner today? Those are all the things that are popping through your head the first 5 minutes that your brain is still coping with waking up on this rock, as you so gently like to put that, Chris. uh
Yes.
you know so try to find balance. And balance for me is not going to equate the same balance for Chris, nor is it for anybody who's
Mm-hmm.
watching this. It's very independent, whatever you feel is balanced. Um, I have an extremely busy life, and people that would look at me and they would go, how the hell is she doing this? That's balanced for me. I enjoy having my hand in a lot of pots at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy a busy life. I feel like if I'm not busy, I'm bored. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just who I am. Other people would look at that and go, oh my God, I'd rather, eat dirt. So
Yeah.
whatever balanced may mean for you.
Yeah. That's actually a good I'm I'm like that. I get asked that question. I'm sure you do too, and people are like, how do you do it? How do you do it all? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just go. I go
Yeah.
into a mode and I just go.
Yeah.
Um,
If I'm not busy, I'm bored.
yeah.
Absolutely bored. And it's like, what the hell am I doing on this rock? Give me shit to do, um, genuinely. And I know a lot of people would be like, girl, take a break, take a breath. It'll be great. And it's like, no, no, if I'm here, I got shit to do. Give me shit to do.
Right. Yeah.
Um, that's just in my nature. in my nature.
Mm-hmm.
But other people would not enjoy that at all, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
But I think that's actually a really good example of an exercise that you can do if you're looking to start tapping into your intuition and acknowledging it. What does balance mean for you?
yeah,
What would work for you?
yes,
Start with that question. So
yeah,
if what Charlie is talking about of, we get up and we're already raring to go, all of the things, the agenda and the task list and everything is already started,
yeah,
and you feel like that's not your jam, you're not satisfied with that, and that doesn't bring you that feeling of balance. That's my kryptonite word of this lifetime, fucking
yeah,
balance. Balance, but and you want to start learning how to tune into yourself more, so start with that question.
mhm,
What would balance mean for you?
yeah,
And get a piece of paper and ask that question. And then first hits, just write it down. How can I make my morning or evening or whatever you want to do more balanced? And
yeah.
start there, you know, see what comes.
So I am also heavily a believer in the chakra system. I believe that anybody who is doing metaphysical work of any means, and that means if you're just strictly wanting to develop so you can tap into your intuition and nothing more, you still need to know the chakra system.
Amen.
So
Mm-hmm.
I highly, highly, highly recommend that. Um, in literally meditation, gut instinct, right? Like you can go down this list and do it one
Mm-hmm.
at a time, master those concepts and chakra system. Because
Yes.
if you understand your energy centers, because that's all chakras are, if you
Mm-hmm.
understand your energy centers and how they function within the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body, it will help you so much more. It will help you so much more. And how we process that energy, how we expel that energy from our body, how we take in information like through our
Mm-hmm.
intuition, right?
Yes.
It will help you understand the functions of it. And
Mm-hmm.
this is absolutely um, such an integral part in my mind of anybody who is developing. So highly recommend that as well.
Oh yeah. When you start understanding and see, this is why even after all these years, I just still get such a kick out of energy and how everything ties together
Sure.
and how it all works, because it is understanding your energy and your chakra system and knowing how each one functions and the role it plays is going to naturally progress and strengthen your intuition, connection
Yeah.
with your higher self. You start to become aware, like Charlie was saying, of all the energy that you give out, you take in, all of that stuff, which is going to also progress into your shadow work and
Sure.
changing your vibration, and
Yeah.
see how all the dominoes kind of connect and fall together.
Yeah.
And you can absolutely start meditation, mindfulness practice, gut instinct, your how do you feel, how does it physically feel, and start by learning your chakra system
Yeah.
one by one,
Yeah.
um, there's your roadmap to
Yeah.
tapping into your intuition and
Yeah.
strengthening it,
Yeah.
even if you want nothing more than to just know your energy and protect your energy, or be more mindful of your own energy and how you deal with the world. Even if
Yeah.
you don't want to be a practitioner, that's cool. But this is how I feel both of us would guide someone on this question.
Yeah.
Here's where you start.
And the final thing
Mm-hmm.
that I believe is so important is to trust the process. Okay. Developing your intuition is a journey. It's a journey. Okay. It requires patience, it requires practice. It's not, you know what I mean? There's no perceived finish line. Trust yourself, trust the guidance that you're receiving. If it doesn't make sense right away, be patient, write it down. It will
Mm-hmm.
eventually, I promise you. I promise you.
Yes.
Okay. But just trust the process of your journey, you know? I think that's really important because a lot of people are like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? No, you need to sit
Mm-hmm.
with this for a minute. You need to practice this for a minute. You need to practice
Yes.
this for a minute. I've had a lot of people who's like, well, I have meditated 3 times and nothing has happened. 3 times. Wow. You got to keep doing it. I promise it will happen. It will happen. Be patient. The
Yes.
first time you meditate, I would be shocked if you had this epiphany that came to you during your first meditation. Do it a few times. Keep
Mm-hmm.
practicing it. You will noticeably see within yourself, within your beingness, that you're calm, you're relaxed, you're more patient, you're more kind, you're more grateful. Those things
Mm-hmm.
are um, a natural um that naturally comes about from that practice. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
words are escaping me
Yeah.
right now.
It's a natural progression
Thank
in
you.
that practice.
I'm
And
like,
yeah, and
the words are
mindfulness.
gone. But
We do so much talking all day long.
yeah,
It gets, yeah. But it is, I mean, you're absolutely on point with that. It is that natural progression of that practice and
mhm,
your mindfulness of how you move about your day, how you interact with your family,
sure.
how you approach and navigate even conflict or anything like that. You'd be surprised, pleasantly surprised how you start noticing these shifts within you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
when you do that. And we are ever evolving souls.
yeah,
It's
we are.
always, you're always going to be shifting, always going to be changing. To leave off on your final piece of just trust the process. If you just settle in with and just let's all just agree we're ever evolving souls, it's always going to be shifting so long as you have breath in your lungs. Just let it be. Sometimes you have to spend some time in certain phases and really embrace and enjoy that phase. So I
Yeah,
think this was a great topic, and obviously much needed. If this is a highlight, this is a hot question
yeah.
of how it is. I hope anything else that you wanted to add on?
No, that was just
No.
the final thing. I was like, oh yeah, I should say this too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us. I hope that you found this helpful. We appreciate your likes, comments, and shares. If you find this helpful for yourself or somebody else that you know is on their journey as well and would find this useful, we, in gratitude, accept and love the energetic exchange. And until next time, I think we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.